Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to another edition of The Author Speaks. My name is Renaee Smith, and I'm the CEO and founder of Independent Authors Book Experience. I know it's been a while. We have been off the air, if you will, for a few months, but we had some amazing things going on this year, and we just wanted to take some time to pause and to focus on that. Yes, I'm talking about our 10th annual Independent Authors Book Expo. We are celebrating, or we have celebrated, 10 years of hosting our Independent Authors Book Expo. And we had an amazing time. It was, I can't even tell you, our event was at the we held it at Kane University in partnership with the Leadership for Service Leadership and Service at Kane. And we just had a really good time. And the day before, so that was September 30th. And on September 29th, we had a literary gala where we honored and featured individuals and organizations that have been supporting us for the last 10 years. Again, another amazing event. Can't tell you enough, but I guess I can show you more than I can tell you. So I'm going to just share a little video of our event with you just so you can get an idea of how it went.
Welcome to the Independent Authors Book Expo, where the magic of literature unfolds. An extraordinary gathering place for book aficionados, visionaries, and wordsmiths alike. To all of our sponsors, authors, vendors, and attendees, a huge shout out to all of you for making the 10th annual Independent Authors Book Expo an unforgettable event. Your support means the world to us. Special thanks to our amazing sponsors.
So, yes, that was the 10th annual Independent Authors Book Expo. And as you can see from our last clip, our next event will be the second annual Children's Book Festival, and that will be on June 8th at Warren Acres Sports Center. We'll tell you more about that later. But today, we are going to feature one of the authors that exhibited at the Book Expo in September. Her name is Casandra Charles. I'm not going to give too much away. I'm just going to let her come on and we'll just talk. If you're here and you're on, say hello, tell us where you are, tell us what city and state you're from. And if you have any questions for Casandra, please feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll bring those questions on to hear her thoughts. So without further ado, we're featuring fiction today. Right? So this month we're featuring fiction, and next month, December 20th, we're going to do folklore, fables, myths, and legends. So if you're an author who writes in any of those genres, you can sign up to be a part of the December Author Speaks. And before I bring Casandra on, let me just run down the other months. So January is self-help, February is biographies, memoirs, and autobiographies. March is Women's History Month, so we feature women in that month, female authors. In April, we do poetry. May, we do nonfiction. June, we do children's. Then we take a little hiatus, and we are back in October. We do mystery. November, back to fiction. And December, back to folklore, fables, myths, and legends. So if you're an author and you would like to participate, please visit our website at www.iabx.org. We are here to help you promote yourself. So please feel free to visit our website, log on, and be a part of our show. So without further ado, we'll introduce Miss Cassandra Charles. Hi, Cassandra.
Oh,
Welcome.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so um, as you can see, I don't know if you've seen the video before, but did you see yourself on the video?
I did. I did. I was looking. I mean, it was so much stuff going on that day, but I was like, oh, there I am. But I was like, I remember that book. I have that book. Yeah, it was a great event.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for being here and being a part of the Author Speaks. One of the things we want to do as IABX is to really promote the independent author and give them a voice and a platform to share their books. So today I want you to talk about your books. And, before we get into that, I just want you to just tell us a little bit about yourself and, where you're from.
Yeah. So my name again, I'm author Casandra Charles. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I currently live in northern New Jersey, and yeah, the road to be an author has been interesting. I was an avid reader. I've read, kind of not by force, but on my own free will. Tail end of high school, definitely into college. Just
Hmm.
books that I wanted to read. Back then, we didn't really have a Kindle. We didn't
Yeah.
have, you had to go to the library. So the very small selection of African American books held at the library was all I was able to read. So every summer, every week, I used to go and get a new book, and it was a fun experience. And I remember in college, I said, I'm going to write a book one of these days because I was the kid, the one that was always reading. I was just
Hmm.
always reading everywhere I go. And I said, one of these days I'm going to write a book.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like just such a wishful thing to say. It just took me my first book. I started it. I think many authors kind of in the same direction. I started something. I had a little bit of a note. It took me about 10 years to get
Wow.
my first book out. Like, I mean, I wrote it and then I put it down and then life happened and I moved. I was going to college and it took me 10 years to finish it. And my first book, which was Lust and Lies,
Wow.
it was released in 2015, and here I am, what, 8 years later, and I
Wow.
now have 9 books and 3
Wow.
journals out. Yes.
Good job. Congratulations. Very
So,
proud of you for that. And I can definitely understand I see similar paths as far as being an avid reader, reading everything. I remember when I went to university, they told me, you're here to read for your degree. Mind you, I'm a math major.
yeah,
So hearing that is kind of like, okay, I'm going to read for my degree. But one of the things they tell you, you go anywhere you go, nobody's going to call you and say, hey, Renaee, you need to come over here. It's going to be on a bulletin board
yeah,
somewhere. So for me, I knew, even now, every time I pass a bulletin board, I will scour it. I read everything on the bulletin board.
yeah,
So
yeah, hmm,
definitely can attest to the love of reading and that kind of sparking,
yeah,
um, starting the journey
yeah,
to write.
hmm, yeah,
So you said 2015.
2015.
Um, so that's 8 years, eight going into 9 years now that you've. So what was your first book? I think you just mentioned it. What was your
Yeah,
first
it
book?
was called Lust and Lies. And so this is my character, Jamie Reynolds. And the whole premise around me wanting to write, I love the authors I read growing up. And I always said, but I want to know more. Back then, a lot of authors just wrote that one book. It was a bestseller. There was never a part two or three, or never really see what's going on. So my goal initially was to write a 3, maybe 4 part journey of one person. That's why it's called the Jamie Reynolds Chronicles. So you're
Okay.
like chronological in her life, straight out of college, and going through what most African American or most women in general just tend to go through, which is relationship issues, love, heartache, financial issues, finding yourself, self love, self hate, just a lot of those different roller coasters that we tend to go to. And you hope she gets it right. So the series in my mind was going to be 3, maybe 4 books, and the series ended up stopping at 6. I said, okay,
Oh wow.
I gotta stop this. So I did a 6-book series.
Okay.
Um, and it was a great journey. So again, you follow one character, Jamie, and Jamie Reynolds. They call her JR, and midway through the book, and she just goes through so much. A lot of people find the series very relatable, and they're
Mhm.
like, I remember doing those stupid mistakes, and as a young college student, or right after college, or in my early 20s, and just you just really hope you start rooting for her. You hope she gets it right. And then it was 6 books of a journey. I had to end it, and then I finally ended my book, my last book, or the 6th book, which was called Tender,
Mm.
Inder, Tender Love and Care, which is
Wow.
now Jamie is over 30 and she's dating. So what does dating look like over 30? You go online and you meet people online. So here she is over 30 with, 10 plus years of dating. You watched her emotional roller coaster of dating, and here she
Mhm.
is online over 30 trying to date. So, and then the series ended, and then the pandemic happened. I was bored. And I said, when I already stopped the series, what can I do? In the back of my mind, I said, the reason why I did a series is because I always wanted to know what happened next to characters. So I
Right.
started writing standalone spin-offs. And
Mhm.
that's kind of where I'm actually enjoying my journey. So this
Okay.
is one of my spin-offs. It's called Thank You Next. So in book 6, one of the guys she dates that she met online, this is his story, because he
Okay.
kind of was a really good guy and people liked him, and people kind of rooting for them, and it didn't work out. So that was his story, and that was called Thank You Next.
Mhm.
And then I realized that even though I'm a fictional author, my journey of erotica has kind of been my niche. So
Oh.
even though this is not about Jamie's JR's, this is another character in the book. His name is Robert, and this is called Joyride. It came out last year, and it was actually nominated for Best Erotica last year. To date is my most successful book to date. It's still charting.
Oh
um,
wow.
Last month it was probably number 8 downloads of last month. I'm actually broken out into United Kingdom. So thank you so much, UK, for supporting
Wow.
Joyride. Joyride has become a movement. I kind of saw an opportunity for Black erotica. So I started
Okay.
making some novelty items, erotica novelty items for the culture. And they're all
Okay.
using the title Joyride. And then again, my most recent book, which is was just a book of fun. It's called Thoughts. Yes, you are reading that right, Thoughts. And it's called Thoughts, a book of hotels. So you're channeling of all the 8 books that I've written. This is the 9th book. All the 8 books
Okay.
I've written, taken one character out of all 8 books that were very short in character, but they had very promiscuous behavior, and I made a
Okay.
book of short stories. So this book is
Oh.
actually 6 short stories in one. So that's why it's called a book of whole tales of 6 short stories in
Oh,
one.
cocktails. Okay, I get
Tales,
it now. I get it. Yes.
right? You kind of have to see the book to kind of see it. But yes, a
Yes,
book of
yes. Okay, I
hotels,
get it.
not
I get
hotels,
it.
yeah. So yeah, this is kind of like my journey. Erotica is kind of my niche. I enjoy it. A lot of people say, it's a really, really steamy book. So it's been kind of like my direction. And I am working on a next erotica book by
Okay.
itself. It's going to be called Code Red, and I'm just kind of riding the wave of like where my imagination takes me, and it's just been such a fun journey. I do appreciate you guys. I stumbled upon you guys last year, and I did the event last year. I did the event this year. You guys are always on my calendar to do the event next year and the years to come.
Thank you.
It's not always easy to find really quality book events in both New York slash New Jersey that welcomes, the genre, or just welcomes that are not like capping. And I love the fact that you guys open it up for a whole plethora of authors to have a safe space to come and really just share our craft together. So I do want to thank you for the opportunity for allowing me on this platform, as well as to your events as well.
Well, thank you for being here. And
Yeah.
one of the things that we want to make sure is that our authors, it is a safe space, and we want to make sure that each person has a voice and they're able to share their story. Whatever that story is, we're not here to judge you and to say, oh, you shouldn't or you should not.
Yeah.
I'm not in that genre or that, but at the same time, there are people who can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we're here for you to share your story. And maybe you'll give someone, they may not even choose that genre, but give them share the space so they can understand that they can write in
Yeah.
wherever they feel comfortable. So, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I have a lot of people that come up to the table, and like I feel like the vision in my head of who would read my book is not that at all. Like your events, amongst others, are just have such a nice collective pool of different kinds of people, and they just want a good story. So
Yeah.
even though I read Black erotica, people are like, oh, that sounds like an interesting story. I've never read Black erotica before. I want to check it out. So I get support from all direction, all avenue, all ages. I love the support that I get from, especially at your event, because they like the fact that you're local. Like
Yeah.
most of the time is a 20-30 minute drive to your event. So they're like, oh,
Mhm.
you're local. That's so great. A lot, they want to meet some of the local authors in their area. So that's always just nice to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go on, I just want to we just want to say, Cadmus, we have Cadmus Hall from Sicklerville, New Jersey. Hello, Cadmus. Welcome to our show. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat so that we can ask Cassandra what's going on. And just to go in a little bit more, because you started out in one genre and you kind of move. Why did you make the switch? What
Yeah.
clicked?
So, I mean, it's funny because now that I think back on it, I should have done my research on it. But initially, I write urban romance, and
Okay.
that was always kind of like the direction I read. Of course, Tara McMillan and Omar Tariz, and all of them did like. But of course, I've always read Zane, which was the Black erotica, and so all of my books had sex scenes in it or adult scenes in there. And I remember, and I should have done my own research. Someone once said, "Hey, I just read your book." And it's more of like an erotica book because there was, at the time, they said there were more than 3 or 4 sex scenes. And I didn't know if that was a true statement or not, as if there was supposed to be a certain percentage of sex scenes.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I guess I write erotica because all my books have more than the X number of scenes. So, and I've always read Black erotica as well as urban romance and stuff like that. And then
Mhm.
I just, out of my 6 book series, I will be perfectly honest and say one of them should have been titled an erotica book. Absolutely, one of them should
Okay.
have been an erotica book. But at the time, I didn't title it that way. So I said, so I'm gonna do this. I write kind of very very narrative. I write kind of in the direction of erotica. Let me try it.
Okay.
So that was kind of how I got in it. And then again, Joyride was so successful. People just assume that my collection has always been erotica. And I'm like, no, I actually, my first erotica book was last year in 2021. So
Okay.
I'm kind of new to the space, but I'm also really, really enjoying the journey of it in general.
And you know what's so interesting? Because when I first met you, I wouldn't think that you were, and like you said, you don't. The people who buy your books are not the typical who you would
Yeah.
expect to buy your books. So I guess I was a being judgy
No, I get
because
it. I get it. No,
um I didn't see you as that
I
kind of
know.
author.
I
So when
hear
you
it all
started,
the
I was
time.
like, "Ah."
But I tell people all the time, Google Zane. Now Zane is, she has the mark. Just Google her. If she can do it, and she is super. I love her. I've never met her, but I just love her work. And
Mhm.
she is so plain like myself. And I feel like, hey, if she could do it, I can do it. But I agree. I hear that all the time. And
Yeah.
people really think that I'm like kind of edgy. I am the squarest person you know. I don't go anywhere. I love my house. I love being home. I love curling up watching a movie, like a regular movie. I am the opposite of what I write. And I
Yeah.
always tell people, author Casandra Charles, when I do these events, it's almost like an alter ego, even though that's my name. It's
Yeah.
almost like an alter ego because I'm truly an introvert. Like I rather just kind of sit in the corner, but you have to kind of step out there and speak and be excited about your craft and tell people about it and then hear no and hear I'm okay, but also
Yeah.
keep it kind of going. So yeah, I've figured out a way to step into the character, and I actually have friends that would tell me to channel the characters in your book, channel joy or channel the character, and just go out there and have fun and sell and let people know what your story is. So here I am.
Okay. And so where do you where do you get your inspiration from? So you're writing erotica. I mean, it's not like you go out there and it's like, oh, it's out there in the world. I'm inspired.
Yeah.
How do you get your inspiration to
Um,
write these books?
that is a great question. I mean, I feel like Google's my friend. I'm a very research-based person.
Okay.
And I always tell people, if anyone ever got my laptop, they would be like, who is she? Because I'm always Googling and making sure that my book is as accurate as possible. In Thoughts, one of the characters joins a sugar daddy website. So what do? I go to the website. I'm Googling the website. I'm reading reviews. I'm reading profiles. So I'm learning as I go along. So it's like when you put this image of a character in your head, you're like, if I was this character, like I
Mhm.
channel her, if I was, a sugar baby, what would I be doing? And then I'm well over the age, but most of my characters are like under 30, so like 30 and under. So it's like,
Right.
right, at a 25-year-old that's on a sugar baby site, what would be my end goal for it. So I
Mhm.
guess that's kind of a little bit of the direction that I get my inspiration from. But honestly, social media is a blessing and a curse. There's so much craziness going on in the world or just in social media.
Yes.
And you just kind of write a book from it. And then I do keep the readers in mind,
Mhm.
because I have to be very honest. My 6-book series started off very slow. The first 2 to 3 books are very careful, very slow, because I was really trying to outline it and map it out.
Okay.
Realize as myself as a reader, I kind of want that drama kind of spiced in there a little bit. So
Right.
now I also, when I'm writing, I also have to change my mindset of like, wait, hold on. Do I have enough stuff to reel a person in to keep them kind
Mhm.
of hooked? So I tend to add a little extra pizzazz here or there. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, my writing process, I always tell people, please don't do what I do. I literally just write off the top of my head. I don't have a I have like a synopsis, and
Mhm.
then a storyline just happens to come from it. So I knew I wanted to write thoughts. I knew I wanted to write 6 short stories. I actually said I wanted to write 8 short stories, but I
Okay.
ended up writing 6 because one of the characters, they were in 2 books, but I had no storyline from it. I didn't know that one of the characters was going to be a sugar baby. Know that, one of the characters was going to go through a divorce, and then she explains why she kind of was like, kind of catching up on. I didn't know those were going to be the characters, but it just ended up coming out that way. And it's funny because when I was writing Thoughts, I actually, since it's a short stories, I'm so used to writing full novels that
Mhm.
most of Thoughts was almost like a full novel, and I'm like, no, 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 no. So I started taking out chapters and saying,
Okay.
I'm going to save this story for this character. But because
Okay.
at the very beginning, it was like 50, 60 pages of just one storyline, and I said, no, no,
Oh
no, no.
well.
It
Yeah.
would it's going to be about 700 pages if I do this. So I changed it, and that particular male character was brought into a second person's character, and that's kind of how I piece it together. Like my brain is moving a mile a minute. That's my writing style. It's a mile a minute. I do not encourage. It's not. I do not encourage people to write this way at all.
Well, one thing you did say though that was that I kind of latched on to, and I think it is important for writers to understand is the whole point of research. Because no matter what it is that you're writing about, you have to do your research because you want to come from a place of authenticity.
Yep.
And when they read it, especially if it's someone who's familiar with the topic
Yeah.
or the idea or the concept,
Yeah.
they're reading and it's like, yeah, she doesn't know what she's talking about,
Pre-
and then
yeah.
they kind of dismiss you and they start on one book and they never get to book 6 because
Correct.
they've already dismissed you at book 1.
Yeah.
So, that point that you just made about you're doing your research,
Yeah.
whether you're doing fiction, nonfiction, whatever it is, you really need to do your homework.
Yeah.
And like you said, Google is your friend.
Yeah. No, because I'm a reader, I'm also really big on that because it is something that kind of makes me a little like, oh man, why'd you do this? Like, this is not right. So I lived in Atlanta. I live here in New Jersey. I'm from New York. I remember I was reading a friend's book, and he mentioned that the New Jersey Nets play in Newark, New Jersey. And I'm like, no, 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 no. So I emailed him, and I text him and I said, hey, I don't know how easy it is for you to change this, but they don't play in New Jersey anymore. They play in New York. And it's like
Right,
those kind of things. And he's no longer in New York, and living in the area. He lives down
right.
south. So maybe he didn't know. And then even another story where someone was speaking about a mall and they mentioned this restaurant in the mall. I'm like, oh, no, 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 that restaurant is not in the mall. Like, so I'm really, really big because it's kind of my OCD kicking in because it will kind of like consume the book. Because now
Yes,
I'm like, oh, where else can I find errors? Like, where else can I find
exactly. Yes,
consistency? And maybe not everyone is like that, but if I'm like that, then I make sure my books can at least follow, my criticism if I was reading it myself. So writing erotica does require a lot of research because I want to make sure, even though that's not the world I'm in, most of it is, like swingers clubs and those kind of other crazy stuff. Even though that's not in my world, I want to make sure I'm accurate as possible because I don't want to offend or turn someone off. Like this will never happen in our world, or this will never happen in real life. And
right.
people say, but it's fiction, so you can make it up. I'm like, yeah, but you don't want to make it up,
Yeah, I
You want
think to a point because even though it is fiction, you're speaking about, I call it realistic fiction. You're talking
yeah,
about real situations and real things that could potentially happen. And if
yeah,
it could, then you need to come from a place of truth.
yeah.
So, you still need to be as authentic as possible with your storyline or what
Mhm.
could or could not happen. So, it makes sense to do your homework,
Thank you.
regardless of what. Do your research.
Absolutely. Please do. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Um, and you know well you have your your the last set of books you mentioned were erotica, and this may seem like okay, who is your intended audience? And we know this because of the type of book you write, but when you write that book, who are you writing for, in terms
Yeah.
of
So when I first started the journey, my books was always going to be for the age range I thought of 18 to 30. And then I
Mhm.
started writing, and then I started meeting some of the people that actually came up to my booth or met me or messaged me. And I realized my age range is 18 to 45. And then I got into erotica. And the craziest thing is my age range is now higher. For
Mhm.
erotica, it's more of like 25 to about 60. And I have people of a certain age, seasoned people who are retired and just like to pick up a good book. They call it a steamy book. I like to pick up a good steamy book. And sometimes, I have sons that will buy it for their moms. And I'm like, I don't want to offend because they're like, no, my mom reads, she loves all this stuff. This is all the stuff that she gets. So my clientele in the erotica world has maybe the younger generation aren't into reading, maybe what they're kind of used to, but in the erotica world is definitely closer to 30, definitely 25 up to about 60 plus is my clientele. So when I see older people come in, I'm like, come on up to the table. Young readers, I know it. Younger people, a
I
little
see my people.
my people, come on up to the table. So yeah, when I do events and such, most of the time my clientele is 35 and up. Honestly, that's the one who's still reading, or at least reading paperback. Ebooks, it took me a while to get into it, but I am into ebooks. But yeah, it's
Mhm.
not the same.
Yeah.
So people are, you either love an ebook or people like, nope, I still need to feel a book. I need to turn a page. That's kind of what I want still.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then and I see people popping in and out, but I just want to say if you have a question for Casandra, just drop it in the chat wherever you are. If you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, just drop it in the chat. But in terms of you mentioned a few, but is there any specific author that inspired your during your journey as an author? Um,
Yeah, so many. I mean, I love it when an author is willing and able, and I say sit with you, not physically sit with you, but sit with you, whether it be message in the DM, whether it be if I come to your table and they really just pour into me and my craft and
mhm,
encourage me and empower me. There's so many out there that I've had the opportunity to meet, and they've really just kind of talked me through, or even non-authors, just business women in general, that's kind of talked me through the journey of stepping into your own, embodying your character, writing from a place of that you're comfortable with.
mhm.
Working on marketing is always like a kind of the hardest. I really
Yeah.
thought I was going to write a book, and It was gonna be a number one bestseller. That was it. I ain't gotta do nothing. Now you have to literally go out there and do interviews. You have to market. You have to do all these other things. Sorry
The
about that.
hustle.
All
No,
these
that's
other things that are really, really helpful. So I want to be able to know that, they have able to really support me and help me throughout this journey. And yeah, it's too many names to actually
yeah.
to thing. And some of them may not even have known in general. Oops, sorry about that. Some of
Somebody's not happy.
I know. Some I may not even know. Some actually I've just made on social media.
Mhm.
Some I have met in person. So it's just so many.
Yeah, and you touched on a few key points as far as because one of the things that I think when you start off, you mentioned I write my book, it's great, I'm going to be an instant bestseller, and
Yeah,
I tell people writing the book sometimes is the easiest part of the journey, you know
absolutely.
really marketing, getting it out there, getting people after you've hit up your parents, your siblings, your cousins, your aunties,
Yeah,
who's next on the list, and
yeah,
they have to be readers, and depending on the type of book you write or the
yeah,
genre of book you write in, they may not be even interested. So you
yeah,
just lost a couple people in your family in that little circle, so
yeah.
now it's getting out there and meeting the other people,
Hmm.
and sharing your work, and people starting to look for, okay, you did book one.
Yeah.
Hey, when is book two coming? Book three, and then you start to build up.
That
So
is definitely something that I tell people who want to write a series. And I learned this after the fact. And again, this is where I was like, I have no problem sharing my pros and cons of my journey. It took me 5 years to write all 6 books. And on the
Mhm.
outside, they're like, oh, that's not too terribly bad. I've lost so many readers because people couldn't wait from book one. After they read book one, they didn't want to wait to book two. So I lost a lot of readers. So what people tell me now who write series is write as much as you can. Maybe write one, two, and three. Then
Mm.
you release one, and then you wait like 3 months later and release two. 3 months later,
Oh,
release three, and then you'll continue writing. So you can really and truly crash the 6 books, 4 books, whatever, within a 1 year time frame once you've knocked out 2 or 3 ahead of time. And if I just waited a couple of years when I had books one, two, and three to release it, I think my personal opinion, I could be a little bit farther along in my marketing journey because like I said, I lost a couple of after I hit a mom and dad, like you said, or whatever, I've lost a couple of people in the
yeah.
process. But now in this new field or this new genre of erotica, I'm gaining people back. And
Okay.
since my books are piggyback off the Jamie Reynolds Chronicles character, that a
Yeah.
lot of people like, oh, I love Thoughts. I'm going to go back and read her whole series. I love Thank
Mhm.
You Next. Let me see about her whole series. So now I'm kind of working backwards,
Yeah.
which is probably a little bit of a different strategy. And it
Yeah.
was not something done on purpose, but now it's like, okay, well, this actually kind of works now. Like people like, now I want to go read out Robert's story, where he come from, like kind of thing.
Right.
And how kind of helpful.
And that's a good point that you just made, as far as you don't really think about it. If you have the desire to do the series, I think that makes sense, because sometimes people tell you, oh, you have to promote this book first
Yeah,
before you go to the next one, and then you promote the next one, and then you have this long waiting period. But if you're an author,
yeah,
if you're a reader, and somebody you're reading a series, and you're like, wait a second, it ends, wait a second, where's book two? And
yeah,
I find I'm the same way. I just bang out the books. I read one, two, three, four,
yeah,
five, six, whatever the whole series is,
yeah,
and I get
yeah,
the whole thing in. And when I'm, like you said, if the next book is not forthcoming quickly, you
yeah,
lose a person, and then they never come back,
yeah,
or they'll circle back at a later date. So I guess that's a very good point.
yeah,
Kind of waiting to do the marketing for book one, two, and three if you have
yeah,
it.
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point.
yeah.
Um, so you've been writing now, what, 8, 9 years, or I should say publishing, because you've
I
been
know.
writing for years.
Yeah,
You started a publishing journey, but not the writing has
yeah.
been for a while. What would you say is the hardest part of writing?
Um, Let me see. What is the hardest? I've never actually heard this question before. Um, Honestly, I think just buckling it down and doing it
Hmm.
because if I was single, no family, and I just didn't work and I just stayed home and I can just sit down and just write it, easy.
Hmm.
But because life happens, there's so many different distractions. For at least for me as a writer, I want to be in a writing space. I don't think it's technically call, for me, I don't necessarily call it a writer's block. I
Mhm.
just don't think I have the mental capacity to write something out. So
Mhm.
sometimes I need to be like the holidays. I'm not even going to attempt to write anything in November, December. Why? Because you have Christmas, you have holidays, you have family. So for me, it's not the right time. I sometimes do what I call a traincation. Actually, in thoughts, I thanked Amtrak. In thoughts, in my thank you, my forward, I thanked Amtrak for allowing me to write on the train because I go to DC kind of often, and
Mhm.
whatever. And when I'm in going to DC, I'm like, ooh, I call it a traincation because I get to sit by myself and I get to write for 4 hours.
Yeah.
What else are you kind of doing on the train? So I definitely call it a traincation. And, that is probably the hardest journey for me is to
Yeah.
really carve out time to actually write. But then once I get that motion going, I
Mhm.
definitely can feel like I can just, if I could just, because for me, people are like, well, how long does it take you to write a book? From beginning to end, not including the editing aspect, it could take me about 30 to 45 days if I can just buckle down and do it.
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to do that. So most of the time, and again, I don't do a traditional outline. I really just kind of write off the top of my head. So for my next book, Code Red, I have a working synopsis in my head. It's going to be
Right.
very similar to Thoughts, where I'm writing a series of short stories because I kind of
Okay.
like that direction of it. Um, and that's it. I just have a working idea. So it's really just kind of sitting down and taking the idea out of your head and putting it on paper.
Yeah.
Has been is fun. But yeah, honestly, just it's finding the time because I'm not a full-time author at the moment. I still have other passions that I do, so I kind
Mhm.
of mix my worlds all together and do everything just side by side, I guess. But
Yeah. And I can agree with I don't know, like you said, the hardest part. I don't necessarily have blocks, just like you. I just because I write in the children's genre. I write children's books.
yeah,
So once I get a story, I just kind of knock it out, but then I let it sit and I let it sit and I have to
yeah,
marinate and then I go back and I read it and so I definitely get that as far
yeah,
as
yeah,
working through life
yes,
because life is constantly happening. So every
agree,
time you think
agree.
you're like, yeah, I'm gonna write now, and something
Yeah,
else happens.
yeah. My
But
next journey, actually, hopefully next year, I do want to write. So my character's name is Jamie. So everything I write is under the Jamie Reynolds Chronicles. So I'm
mhm.
doing a Little Jamie series, which is a children's book, and it'll be Little
Oh,
Jamie. So it'll be under the Jamie Reynolds Chronicles, and it'll be Little Jamie's kind of like her series of when she was like a little kid. I wrote down June 8th, but I know that's when the children's expo is coming up, and I'm like, if I can like and a children's book is probably a little bit easier. That one I have a working synopsis. I have like a
yeah,
little bit of an outline, and maybe I can get it together on time. And you may see
yeah,
me at the children's one for my
that would
first
be awesome. Yes.
introduction to
Whoop,
the
whoop.
art to the children's world. So I wrote it down, so it's literally on my to do list. Like, all right, let's do this, Cassandra. You could do this. Your
You have a
goal
goal.
children's book next year. Now you have a target date that you would like to have it complete and published and available for that June 8th mark. So
Oh,
we'll see.
nice, wonderful! I can't wait to see what little Jamie has in store for us. So, as we are, you're writing and getting your work out there. Do you have a writing group or community of writers that you share your work with?
I
And
just
if
started
so
doing
far
that.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm still learning as I go along. Even 8 years in, I still listen. I don't have it all down, so I'm still learning. I did my
Mhm.
first round of ARC readers, which is advanced copy readers. This advanced readers copies this
Yeah.
time around. But yeah, I have one really really amazing author, best BFF. She's my author BFF, A. Lewis. She's been in the game for a very very long time, and she is amazing at her craft. We
Okay.
met years ago at an expo, just randomly exchanged information,
Mhm.
follow each other on social media, and she has been just so helpful in like crafting my direction. So if I have an idea, I will kind of run it by her. I have a book. I'm like, hey, if you have time, you could just read like maybe the first chapter or one story. It would be really, really helpful. And then I have other authors, other people who are in the world of the literary world. They may not be an author. They could be an editor,
Mhm.
even
Right.
not to edit my book, but just like, hey, as an editor standpoint, what do you think of something like this or this? And her name is Janine. She's really, really cool with her gift. Um, but I don't have, and I have a couple of Facebook groups that I follow.
Yeah.
They do challenges. I'm not there with the challenge yet, where they do like 5,000 word challenge a
Oh
month.
yeah.
Not quite there. I mean, I commend them and I say, good job. You got it. High five you for,
Yeah.
but I'm not ready yet to put that much pressure because I don't like to fail.
Yeah.
But I think when I have a good month and I'm like, okay, like January might be a slow month, February could be a good month for me to start writing, I may look out and be like, all right, is anyone doing any reading challenges or a writing challenge? Or maybe I'll do one myself. I have a
Mhm.
Just Read group that I use on Facebook. I may even do one myself. That'd be kind of helpful. But yeah, I mean, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. I literally just switched over. Someone was telling me that she writes her books on her phone. And I was like, what? Oh my God, no. And then I thought it was so crazy when she said that. She was like, yeah, because you can just have your Google Docs and you can do Word and it's on your phone. And I thought it was the most insane thing I've ever heard. And then when I'm writing thoughts, I caught myself on the train and I didn't have time to whip out the laptop and I just was on my phone. I didn't write a whole book, so I don't know how I can do that, but I
Yeah.
use technology. So when I'm slowly but surely kind of conforming to the technology aspect and what really can work. But I tell authors all the time, do what works for you and at your own speed. You know,
Yeah.
don't jump out and do everything that everyone's doing because it may
Mhm.
not be right for you. Do what's right for yourself. So
Absolutely. And I think I don't know if maybe we had that conversation or I heard that conversation about writing using the Google Docs.
yep.
So I was working on one of my children's books, and I took out the phone. I was trying to type. I said, "Oh
Yeah.
gosh, I'm tired." Ugh. And I took out the phone and I said, "Let me try this." So
Did
I'm
you?
talking in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did try it. Of course, you have to go back and do some serious
Yeah.
editing because I'm from Jamaica, so sometimes my accent it doesn't pick up certain words,
Yeah.
and you know that talk to texting can get really
Yeah.
wonky sometimes.
Yeah.
But what I did find was that it was helpful for me just to get the idea out of my head and to get that
Absolutely.
thought
Yeah.
because I always have a notebook. I have notebooks. I can't tell you how many notebooks I have, just even right here on my desk.
I'm a sticky pad person. I have sticky
Oh,
notes everywhere.
look at this. This is it. If you see, if I could turn my laptop around and just show you
Yep.
all over, there's a sticky everywhere. And I
Same,
said, no, this
same.
is ridiculous. So I
Yeah.
have stickies, I have this, I have the little things
Yep.
I can.
Nappies. Yep. Same. Same. Yeah.
So
Works for me. Yeah.
yes. So I use that, but it was helpful in that regard. I'm not really I'm still, the old fashioned
Yeah.
way, but I say, similarly, use what works for you. I couldn't do a whole book on a phone. I've heard that situation, and I said, first thing, I don't like to hold my phone that long to just
Yeah.
sit there and tap
Yeah.
out a whole book. And I write children's books, so that's not a lot. But for
Yeah.
someone who's writing a novel,
Yeah. She said she writes all her books on her phone. I said, wow, girl, I can't do
OMG, two thumbs up.
that. Not half of a distance because I can't do that.
Two high fives, whoop, because that is some serious that
Mhm.
I'm not there. But kudos to anyone who can,
Mhm.
because it is what it is.
Yeah.
So you're in. I know you said you're working on Code Red.
Yep.
So have you? So you've done Black or
Erotica.
Urban,
I
Black
did Black
Erotica.
urban romance, and then
Yes,
now I do Black erotica,
you do
kind
Black
of.
Erotica.
Yeah.
Have you considered writing in any other genre? Oh, you
No.
said.
Well,
Oh,
someone also said there's I guess I feel like people just make up genres nowadays, but someone said there's a contemporary genre, and I'm like, well,
what
I
does
mean,
that mean?
to be honest, I actually don't really. It seemed to me it was like it's modern writing, but it's not like a culture. It's not urban. It's just like a
Mhm.
modern story, just a modern story, whether it be a love story or just a modern story. I think they're kind of just making up genres sometimes
Yeah.
because I've read books that are considered to be contemporary, and there is no love interest. There is no like happily ever after at the end, or there's not a real like definition of the character's like race. Um,
Okay.
but I mean, can I put it in a category? I would still consider it, but maybe because I believe if an author, for me, if an author is a particular race, I'm going to automatically, in my mind, believe that this is a African American book, which is probably not the right thing to do.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess contemporary, you remove the race aspect of it, which is hard because if the author is Black, then I feel like they're talking about it's a Black book.
Yeah.
And then there is no like happily ever after. I have another friend, she writes and she calls her books, oh my goodness, she kind of made up her own genre, but it makes sense for her. And it's called, it's something like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna mess it up. It's sorry, girl, I'm messing up your genre. But she writes, it's like thinking, oh my goodness, it's thinking something. It's like but her stories are the one book that I read was about a female who, you know, witnessed something really traumatic outside, and then she had a phobia. I forget the name of the phobia, where she doesn't want to leave the house.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it was a fictional book about this the girl who doesn't want to leave the house, and she ended up falling in love. But how does she fall in love with someone she doesn't leave the house? And it was like a really weird. And I asked her, because I do my authors talk, and I said, Mel, this was a great book. What genre do you write? I was like, because for me, I couldn't even put it in a genre. Like sometimes I could read these books and be like, all right, this is a missed genre. It should be. I was like, I can't even put this in a genre. This is a really. And so she said, my publisher actually made up a genre for me. I forget the name of it, but I'm sorry, girl. Mel Day is her name.
Okay.
Mel Dodds is her name, and she made up a genre, and it's so fitting for her craft because it's like thinking contemporary or something like that. She said every story she writes, she will have you think about like, wow, like she writes from a medical mindset, but then there is a twist to it or something unique like that. But hey, listen, this is 2023. I'm not putting it past no one. If there's a genre that is untapped, I have another friend, A.A. Lewis. She writes sophisticated ratchet books. She calls it sophisticated ratchet.
They are making it up as they go along, but hey.
But listen, her books are sophisticated. It works for her. And I said, listen, but I mean, I get, you know, again, and her books, since sophisticated is not a real genre, her books are considered to be contemporary.
Okay.
And her storylines are contemporary. So, but yeah, I mean, listen, if you find a genre that is kind of missing, I know the LGBTQ plus industry is also a new form of genres because in the Amazon world or reading world, they used to just categorize them to one category. That's it. You're just LGBTQ. And they're like, no. So now there are new subtitles underneath that where it could be romance, it can be love, it can be street, all within that. Just like back in the day, African American was just one genre. You just wrote African American and you just had all of it under one umbrella.
Yeah.
Now there is different categories underneath. So I mean, listen, sophisticated ratchet might be a category in a couple of years. Who knows? I mean, I don't know.
I'm wondering, you know, who else is coming up in that. And here's the thing, you know, when you create your genre, then and you title it, do you not share it with the world so that other people can write in your genre? Because
listen, why not? You could be the creator of Ratchet or something, you know. But she wears that with a badge, and she will always say, "This is my genre." And when you think of Sophisticated Ratchet, you think of A. And her books are very much exactly what the genre is.
I love it. I love it. That's interesting. I've never heard of Sophisticated Ratchet, but I'm gonna lock it in because when I see it, then I'll know what it is.
Exactly.
And then, you know, we're just talking about, you know, Black authors being through the years, how we've progressed. Yeah. So, you know, why do you think it is important to have representation, not only as a female author, but as an author of books of color?
I love it. I'm here. I am a strong believer representation matters. As I noted, Joyride has become its own little brand now. So I do make some erotica items, novelty items for the culture. And I noticed that there were no representation in that world that was tastefully done. My stuff is not pornography. It is done in an educational format, and it's really done to empower women to step out of their comfort zone and try something new, you know, within their love life. But yeah, representation absolutely matters. I think reading is kind of becoming a little bit of a lost art, and a lot
Yeah.
of people aren't doing it. And to see someone that looks like you, to see someone that that you have a similar story you can relate to, I think it does encourage and help people to kind of push through whatever they're going through. So even
Yeah.
though Jamie Reynolds or JR is a fictional character, I have so many people that will read the whole series and be like, oh my God, it sounded like my story. I went
Mm.
through so much stuff. And some of my reviews say, I'm glad she finally got a win. Like, because it was just like
Yeah.
how much abuse, and not physical abuse, but how much
Yeah.
more can a person take before they finally see a win.
Yeah.
And writing has become a way to escape someone's world, and you never
Hmm.
know what a person's going through. So writing and representation for them to see an African American author like myself, who again took 10 years to write a book. In their mind, they may be like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure, I can't write this
Yeah.
book that I'm trying to write. Here I am, it took me 10 years. So
Yeah.
just to see me, hear my story, and they'd be like, I believe that, and I have a similar journey, or my journey is shorter, my journey is longer. There is a Maya Angelou, I hope I'm quoting this correctly. Maya Angelou did not publish her first book or didn't become a best-selling author until I think she was over 40.
Yeah.
And
She
it's
was pretty old when she got when she started. She got notoriety then, if you will. It
correct,
just
yeah.
didn't come like, oh, I started writing and whoops, I
Exactly.
am. Yeah.
So it's like even that as a representation matters. I mean, even the Amazon CEO, I mean, I can't think of his name at the very moment
Is
right
it
now.
Bezos? Is it
Bezos,
Bezos?
yeah. There's an old photo of him sitting in the front of a computer with like a banner that just says Amazon, like a hand-drawn banner that says Amazon, and it's like, look where he is at now. So
Yeah.
even seeing someone that looks like you, struggling like you, going through what you're going through, it helps and it matters and it empowers you to keep on going. So I think of Maya Angelou, I think of the Jeff Bezos, I think of the people in the world that have got a late start, who took 10 years who believed in themselves and kept on going. So I think the more and more people, and I'm an open book, so I'm always here to share my journey, share my
Yeah.
story. I'm not proud, but I'm proud to tell people all the time that I do suffer from adult dyslexia. So I'm actually dyslexic. I mean, I still have ability to read and write, of course, but I do
Hmm.
struggle with some of the phonics words, and that is something that I share with people all the time. It's even in my book, I share that about myself because
Right.
I know for a fact that is empowering someone to know, like, well, shoot, if she can do it, I can do it. Because
Absolutely.
in their mind, they can't accomplish something that they want to do. So
Hmm.
seeing someone like myself, who is African American, who I guess is young, we're gonna call me young this time around, who is young and who is empowered and still doing what she can despite her limitations that
Yeah.
society may choose as a limitations. No, I'm 9 books in and I got 3 journals out.
Yeah.
So there is no stopping what you can do no matter what. So people need to see that, and it helps to keep them, empower them.
Absolutely. And it is very important because even though, we like to say we've come so far, but there's still so much more to go.
Yep.
And for individuals, whether authors, now I think we're at maybe 2.1 million independent authors as
Yep.
of like 2023. So there is a space for you. And
Oh,
like your friends who Sophista Ratchet and the other thinking genre
yeah.
and whatever
Yeah.
else, you can create that space for yourself.
Yeah.
And I tell people, comparison is a thief of joy, because when
Mm,
you look at someone else and you're looking at their journey, everybody sees Maya Angelou and they see, oh my gosh, she's sold all these books and she sold all this and she's all, but you didn't see how she started.
yeah.
You didn't see where she started, and
Yep.
you didn't see all the crumpled papers that she had, like this in the garbage. How many times she started over? And I
Correct.
think it's very important for having a platform like this where you can share your story, so people can say, hey, okay, well, it took her 10 years. I'm at year 5.
Yeah.
I'm not so bad. I can still
No,
do it. I can still
exactly.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and you have books that you're sitting on. I had a book, one of my children's books that I wrote. I wrote it a while, and and it was sitting there. I wrote I wrote first 1 and 2, and then I did it, simultaneously while I was
Yeah.
writing. It just sat there. I just could not. It just wasn't hitting the right note for
Yeah.
me, and I did 3, I did 4, and I finally got to it at maybe I
Yeah.
think it's number 5. And you know I say don't rush your project,
Hmm.
because
Absolutely.
even though sometimes we have deadlines and we're like, oh, I need to finish it, I finish, but don't rush your project,
Yeah.
because you want to make sure that when you write and you put something out there, it's good, you feel content with it, and you're okay with what you have. You
Absolutely.
know, there's
Yeah.
there's not another like, oh, I should have put an extra sentence right there.
Yeah.
Just write.
Yeah.
um so getting to, what advice would you give to an aspiring author?
It's funny, you just said it. Just write. That is literally my quote to everyone. Just
Yeah,
write. Once you have it, the steps to get it published, self-published, the editing, that stuff is the easy part. That's
yeah,
easy. You could go through that in a couple of weeks. It's the
yeah,
writing part that's
yeah,
hard.
yeah.
So get something that you are happy with, that you're empowered about, and you feel like just know that there's a reader out there for everything. It's 2 point something million authors, self-published authors, and
Hmm.
we're all in this together. So there's plenty of space for you all. Just write. That's my answer. I tell people all the time. People are like, oh, I always wanted to write a book. How do I get started? I said, did you finish the book yet? No. How about you write it? Here's my card. Call me, message me. I will walk you the whole process. I promise you, because
Yeah,
it's too many steps. And for you to focus on, well, who's going to edit it and who's going to format it? And how do I make a designer? I'm like, yeah, you can knock all that out in about a week or two, but it may
yeah.
take you 10 years to write a book. It may take you. So get the book out. And then
Hmm.
if you want to test it out, you can use a beta reader. You can use family, friends, or there is actually people who beta read, just
Yeah,
like that's what they do. And you
yeah.
can just find someone to beta read it and then just give you some honest feedback. But don't
Hmm.
just do one, do a series of them. Maybe do 5 and then get the
Yeah,
best out of it.
yeah.
There was a friend, Elle Kaysen. She wrote probably one of the breakout books of last year. It's called Demon Streams. She
Hmm.
actually just noted that she just hit 5,000 reviews. She had a 1 year anniversary, I think, in October, and she just hit 5,000 reviews in, I think, last week or something like that. And I
Wow.
read her book and I thought the book was amazing. And I always look at her and I said, she has 5,000 reviews. If you look at the number of 1-star reviews on there, 1-star reviews, it's probably
Hmm.
about 100 and something. And I'm
Wow.
like, look at, she's a breakout author.
Yeah.
She's been on the top 10 or top 25 for over a year now. And
Oh, wow.
people still didn't like her work. And I said, that's empowering for me. Not to say that her book was not good. I gave it 5 stars. I would have given it 5.5. I would give it more than that. But it's just to let you know that not everyone likes what you write. Look up
Yes.
Michelle Obama. Look up Viola Davis. Look up any of these authors, even one well-known. There's 1-star reviews out there. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that's just because it wasn't for that person, but there's a genre
Right.
for somebody. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more. You just said, because and it could be something simple that they don't like your book for. It
Yeah,
could be
yeah.
really
Too
simple.
long. I'm
So
like,
um it is one of those things where you whatever you when you write, and I say leave it on the paper. So
hmm
if you, when you're finished, you put that last full stop, you've edited, you've done back and forth, and you're done, and you say, I'm good.
yeah, I'm in a good
Whatever
space.
comes with it
Yeah,
or after it, no matter what, whether they say, you still look at the 1 stars or the 2 stars or whatever stars it is, whether it's 5 or 1, you look at
yeah,
it and you say, okay, you take everything with a grain of salt, and you
absolutely.
say, hey, this is okay. I could see that, because sometimes some people aren't being malicious. They saw something that you didn't see or somebody else didn't see. So you just take it and say, okay, maybe I can use it, maybe I can't.
Yeah,
But you go with it, and you go from there. But it's just interesting um to not let it hinder your journey,
it's hard.
because
It's hard, but yeah, I just don't let it. This is just not, especially if you feel like this was my best work and I was really proud of what I did. You
exactly.
just stand on it. Just that's
Yeah.
all you do, just stand on that.
If you, that's why I said leave it on the paper. If you leave it on the paper, and when you walk away, I'm an athlete, so I used to run track. So they say leave it on the track. If you
Yeah,
come off walking strong, you needed to go run another lap,
yeah,
because
exactly.
you
We want.
didn't leave it out there. So especially with your writing, definitely take it with a grain of salt. And I say you have to have a strong back, because people can be mean just
Yeah,
because
they
they
can.
can. And you know, so I'm just gonna leave that there. Just have a
Yeah.
strong back.
Agree. Yeah.
So winding down, we're almost to the end of our interview here on
Yeah.
our author speaking. But one thing I wanted to ask, we always ask our authors, pen and paper or the computer?
Computer.
The computer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
why?
Because it's not even legible if I try to write it on paper. Because I'm just like my mind is moving too fast, and I'm trying to. So just, but even my typing is like that. I would just be like type. I know I made mistakes, but I can come back to it. But so like I can type faster than I can write.
Yeah.
So I have to do my. I have to be. It has to be computer.
Okay. And for me, I do both. So I start with the pen and paper,
Mhm.
and if you see my book, when I'm writing, there's all these arrows that go back and forth and all
Yeah.
over with my
Right
writing,
here.
and start
Right
here, and so, and then once I have at least the general idea, like I write in children's genre,
here.
so and I don't write in chapter books, so the story I can
So
put it
yeah.
out on paper, and then I go to the computer,
Yeah.
and then I,
It'll
you
make a
know,
little sense. Yeah. Yeah.
I do a little more editing. And then, like I said to you, I recently use that text to talk to
Yeah.
text
Talk to
with
yeah.
the Google,
Yeah.
which was interesting. I put it, and you know, if you don't go back to it right away, like when within the same day, it's like, what was
Yeah.
I saying? What's
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
word? But that was cool. So okay, so author Cassandra goes with the computer. So we've talked about your books, we talked about who you are.
Yeah.
Now we want people to find you. Can you tell us where we can find your books? Let me
Yes.
just put that up here
Thank
so
you.
they can see.
Yes. So you can go to my website. My website is jamiereynolds.chronicles.com. You can also email me at info@jamiereynolds.chronicles.com. My Facebook page is author Casandra Charles, and that's Cassandra with one S, author Cassandra Charles. And you can also find me on social media at the JR Chronicles. So I'm a little all over the place, but as soon as you put in author Cassandra Charles, I'll pop up on Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok. I'm still new on TikTok, but I'm working it.
Oh, I'm definitely not there on TikTok. I
Um,
don't even think I'm gonna make it to
yeah, girl.
TikTok. You
That's
know,
a job in itself, girl.
it is work. You
Yes.
know, this is work. I remember and someone, she's an author, she said she commented, I mean, do you have to TikTok to sell a book now? And she was really like she was in her feelings, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah.
She was getting a little annoyed because, you
Yeah.
know, I write my book, I put it out there. Now I have to do all this song and dance to get people to get attracted to the book.
Yeah.
Shouldn't the book sell itself, type of thing. But
Yeah.
you kind of go with the times, I guess.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you can do it, if not, again, do what's comfortable for you. You
Yeah.
mentioned that. Do what's comfortable for you, what makes sense for you. If you can't TikTok, don't worry about it. You have
Yeah.
Facebook, you have
Yeah.
Instagram, do what works for you.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yep.
and before we go, I just want to say thank you,
Thank you
Cassandra, for
so
being
much.
here with us. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you taking the time to be a part of our show
Yes.
and to just share your journey, your story, your writing
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
And hopefully, and I'm sure someone will, whether if they missed it, they can go back to it, or the show will be on YouTube, and you can probably go back to our Facebook page. But we just want to say thank you for sharing, and just being open about your journey and your career. And if anyone has any questions, you're too shy to ask on the platform, definitely reach out to Cassandra at Jamie Reynolds Chronicles.com. You can email her at info@jamiereynolds.chronicles.com. Facebook, author Cassandra Charles with one S in Cassandra. And then on Instagram at the JR Chronicles.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it was just a pleasure talking to you, Cassandra. I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. And we look forward to seeing you at the Children's Book Festival.
Yes, I have a date now. I'm excited.
Yes, yes,
Person
yes,
now.
yes. We're so excited. That one was, I really enjoyed the
Yeah.
Children's Book Festival, because
Yeah.
that was our first time doing that
Uh-huh.
event.
Yeah.
And, we just wanted an opportunity to share with the children. So
Good. Yes.
um,
I'm
we
here.
hope to see you there.
Thank
And I
you.
just want to just pop that back up. That is going to be June 8th at Warnacre Sports Center from 12 to 3:30 p.m.
Mhm.
And if you would like to register for the event, just visit us at our website, IABX.org. Let me put all of that up. We are IABX.org. So thank you one and all for being a
Thank
part of our
you.
show. And Cassandra, take care, be well, and we will see you soon.
Bye, guys. Thank you.